All right, folks. Chapter 43, as promised yesterday. Today we speak about the concept of love. What does it mean to have a love of God? So just like we have in fear/awe of God, two levels. Likewise, when it comes to love, there are two levels. The Alter begins with the higher level. The higher level is called avarabba, a magnanimous love, a better defined, or the quality of it is avabitanugim. It means to have pleasure in God and in God alone. And the Alter Rebbe says we can't achieve that. It's a gift given to an individual who has worked upon themselves to such a degree that they've gone through the lower level of love, which we'll soon see what that is, the two levels of fear/awe of God. And we're talking about righteous people. And they're gifted. It's from above. It's something you can't achieve on your own. In other words, to have pleasure in God, not for my appreciation, but just in Him, for His sake, for His reality. Let me explain. It's a bit difficult. Think about people that you enjoy, or you have pleasure, or that you love. You love what they do and it makes you feel good. So it's not about really them so much. It's really what they do that makes you love them. So really what you do is love what they do. So and this is actually beyond the pale of what we're talking about here. It's a much lower level, but just to give it by way of metaphor, if someone brings your life, makes you laugh, or lifts your spirit in an inspiring way, so you love that? No. You love what they do for you. Right? Which is fine. That's human. That's normal. But to love a person not for what they do for you, but for who they are, period. Not that the kid's so cute, oh, I love that. The kid, he's so cute that my grandchild, love him. So cute. No, that's because they're cute. And it's not an inherent love that we're talking about here either, although that will come up later as similarities. It is because you appreciate them for who they are, period. So here, and that's being used as a metaphor to understand, in this instance, it means to love God because of God. Not because what He gives you life. Not because He gives you, health or anything else. And you want to cleave to Him, or you do cleave to Him in the pleasure and the delight of Him. In the pleasure and the delight of God. Not an easy thing. A metaphor that we could have to maybe get an inkling of this is that when we delight in another person's goodness, not because it gave me pleasure, that my child was good, because then that's my child, an extension of me. So it's about me. But that I love the goodness of that person just because of the goodness of that person. Not because of any benefit that I get from that goodness, or not even from the, just, they're wonderful. That's not an easy thing to achieve, to be quite honest. Because usually the love that we have is for something that they do for us. Again, that's human, that's normal. And we're talking about a very, and I'm giving this by way of metaphor because it's even beyond that. Just to give us a little inkling of this thing, how it's beyond us. And the Alter Rebbe gives a interesting metaphor based on, it says, the Talmud tells us it's the way of a man to go after a woman. Now, simple meaning means the man is the seeks out the woman, which makes sense because, after all, she was taken of his side, and therefore something's missing of him that he's seeking out to have, brought back to him in order to be complete. And she wants, in her completion, to be a part of. There's a lot there, and I'm not going to go off on that because that could be a whole teachings unto itself, but there's a lot there. But here he uses it as a metaphor. Male represents, love. Female represents fear/awe. Love of God versus the awe of God. Why that is, also we're not going to go into that right now, but men come from Chachma, women come from Bina. Chachma, wisdom, is on the right side. On the right, so chesed, kindness, and love. On the left side is fear and awe, that is derivative of gvura, of Bina, understanding. Again, a lot there, but we're not going there right now. So the point, though, is that it's the way of love to come after awe. So what kind of love are we talking about here in the metaphor? This higher level of love, avarabba, that one delights in God just because he's God, just because he's everything. And it comes after you have fulfilled the lower level of love and the lower level of fear and the higher level of fear or awe, rather, of God. And then you get this as a gift from heaven because of all of your hard work. Meaning that it's something that is not part of the human condition that you can achieve. It's not a normative form of love. I'm now just going to digress for a moment. We're all going to get that in times of Mashiach. But right now, the righteous people only have that kind of love. So what kind of love can we have? It's called Avas Olam, eternal love, and also called a worldly love. What is a worldly love? Because it comes from contemplation of the world. What does that mean? Don't have an apple or any physical thing in this world. When you look at it, you see a physical thing. We're attracted to it. We say sometimes, well, if you love apples, right? You love apples, right? Well, you can't really love apples. You can like them. But why would we say that? It's because we're attracted towards the thing. So the second level of love, Avas Olam, this so-called worldly love, is to contemplate and recognize that the vitality of the apple is God. And therefore, what you're drawn to the apple is not the love of apple, the physical garment of, that gives us a pleasure when we look at it, and it gives us, and all other material things. But it is a recognition that I'm drawn to the spark of God that is animating this, rather than that God has vested a spark of Him in this apple that animates it. And therefore what I'm doing is transferring. It's a transfer. It's a transfer of not having the pleasure of the physicality of the apple, but having the pleasure and drawn, attracted, which is the concept of love, to be attracted, be drawn, to be connected to the true joy of that apple, which is the spark of God, who is the source of the vitality of that physical thing. So therefore, you're not drawn for worldly pleasures, right? What's the word of that? You substitute the worldly pleasure for an awareness for the love of God. Just that's also some level to achieve, right? That we don't have pleasure in food or in material things, but it's a recognition that there is God who animates, and the vitality of the thing is of God. So therefore, I'm going to have the true dimension of what that is, a love of, right? And there's no comparison between the two. One is external, one is the true reality. Now, how do you come to this love? And for that matter, how do you come to awe? It's the quality that we've mentioned before, the quality of das. Das is knowing something intimately, very intimately, that it brings from the awareness of the mind, feeds it into the heart. And das, in a sense, incorporates both love and awe of God. Usually, what will happen when you meditate and think about the material world, and you recognize, or you're aware of God's presence in that material world, the first thing it will bring you to, usually, is a sense of awe, or fear, or awe, right? God's presence. That's usually what it'll bring you to. Then it can bring you the lower level of fear, of not wanting to be disconnected. And then it can bring you to love. Sometimes it can come the other way. That when you meditate about the world around you, it brings you to a love of God. Usually that's not, if it's real meditation, real thinking about the presence of God in the world, usually it's more an awesome thing than it is a loving and attracting thing. The Alter Rebbe brings of Rebbe Elazar ben Dordoy, who was a big sinner, and then he came to meditate and think about an awareness of God, and it brought him to such a love of God that his soul actually expired in his tshuva, in his penitence. But usually that's not the case. Usually it's not love that will first emerge. Because remember, emotions are coming from our intelligence, coming from our awareness, from here to here. So it's right side chachma, left side bina. You have the spark, and then of an idea, and then you elaborate upon it, and you develop it. You have a real awareness of God's presence, and understanding the spiritual, four worlds, and how it evolves the animated process. And when you have that awareness, it feeds the heart through das. So das holds both and feeds both love and awe, because they're both emotions. Again, since they're both there, one will come out first, and one will come out second in the order. Again, usually it'll be awe, because when you think of the present, just when I had the often privilege to sit by a Farbrengen, be by a Farbrengen, or by dollars of the Rebbe, and this is a metaphor to understand what it means before God. When you stand before the Rebbe, usually it's the first feeling is not love. The first feeling is a sense of awe. The love is there too, but that comes not in that moment. That's not what you're feeling first in the moment. You're feeling, whoa, and so much so that sometimes you wanted to say something to the Rebbe, and how often did it happen that people couldn't express themselves because of that awe. Is the love there too? Of course, because if you're in awe, the flip side is love. They go together. But you need to develop that. And that's the end of chapter. Tomorrow is finishes chapter 43. So I just gave a little synopsis of that last part of tomorrow's class. That's it, folks. Amazing stuff. Mixu. Got it. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. From Alberta, fellow Canadian. All right. Russ. Oh, from Boca. Aziz Chodesh. Yes, a sweet month. We need it. Linda from the Netherlands. Thank you for joining. And who else do we have here? Christopher, Flagship, Arizona. Thank you. Ooh. Samar. Joseph from Brooklyn. Brenda from Norway. Ashley, good morning. Robin from Brooklyn. Thank you for joining. Michael. Dundas, Ontario, from right around Shrubs Pickles. Oh, good pickles. Thank you for sharing. Shalom from JN? JM. Probably got that wrong. Mark from Santa Rosa. Rona from Mid-Atlantic. And Megan from Israel. Shabbos is coming. Wow. Thank you for joining. Sally and Linda and Denise from New York. Thank you for joining. And Deanna from Virginia. Ranit, thank you for joining. And Nina from New Jersey. Shalom. Rona. Irene, thank you for joining. Who else do we have here? Omar, Audrey, Annie. All right, okay. Any questions? I don't see any questions. All right, folks, sharing is caring. Please share the Alter Rebbe's teachings with others. A reminder that you can also find on Instagram and LinkedIn a synopsis of everything we learned in 1 minute. LinkedIn, Twitter. Soon more places to come. If you're interested in more of the classes that I have, please private message me your email so we could be further in touch and learn some more. All right, folks, I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from my home in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a good Chodesh. Today is a new month of Iyar. Stands for many things, but one of the things is Ani Hashem Refecha. I am Hashem, the healer. God is our healer. And boy, do we need healing in this world. The whole world needs healing. So this is the month of healing. May God bring that healing. It's also Erev Shabbos, the eve of Shabbos, and Shabbos, Parshas Tazri Matzorah, double header, a lot going on. And stay tuned. Actually, before Shabbos, I will have something online, and after Shabbos also. Again, if you're interested, you'll let me know. Have a good day and good Shabbos.